And today we're going to put a couple of the pieces we've already worked on together now. So we've went over the nasal breathing to get it cleared out so that you can actually breathe properly through your nose. We went over a couple important pieces as far as where you should be breathing and giving you a couple cadences or ratios of your breath. So now what we want to do is take all three pieces that we want to work on when it comes to our breath and put them together into what I call the light, slow, deep breathing concept. So this is where we get into actual functional day-to-day breathing of how we want every breath to look like, not when we're doing breath work, but when we're just day-to-day moving through our life. And we can also use it as breath work to practice until we get better and better at using it through our day. So when we talk breath work, we focus on three main areas. We have our biomechanics. So that was on day one when we were learning to breathe more down in our diaphragm and less up in our chest. Biomechanics also getting that nose cleared up so that we can be breathing through our nose versus our mouth. So that's a biomechanical side of things. Biochemistry is the basically the ratio of oxygen to carbon dioxide. So that's what's kind of put into a lot of these, and is the part that doesn't get talked about a whole bunch is like by changing the pace that we're breathing and how light or heavy we're breathing, we change our biochemistry. So when we slow that breath down a little bit, we get better exchange of the gases for our body. So that's kind of that biochemical side a little bit. And then the cadence in which we're breathing. So how fast or slow are we breathing? How much of it's inhale, holds, exhale, holds. Um, so we're combining those three ideas with the light, the slow, and the deep. So light means basically by breathing a little bit lighter, we're going to affect our biochemistry. By breathing a little slower, that's obviously the ratio or the cadence in which we're breathing. And breathing deep is obviously the biomechanical side of getting down into the diaphragm. So one big thing that we need to talk about with this is when we try and breathe light, slow, and deep, is that a lot of people will go automatically to bigger breaths. We don't want the breath to get disproportionately bigger because we're slowing it down and going deeper and lighter. We want it to remain the same, maybe slightly bigger because of how much we're slowing it down and how much we're getting deeper into there, but not disproportionately. We're not taking this big of a breath now instead of this big of a breath. So we're actually trying to breathe less to become more efficient with our breathing because there's a lot of wasted air if we're breathing fast. So a lot of us are over breathing. And when there's a lot of exchange happening, we miss out on a lot of the air. Because think about when I take a breath in and get air into my lungs, a certain amount gets into my lungs, but everything from my lungs back up to my nose or my mouth, that air never actually gets down to where we want. So if we're breathing very fast, we continually miss this volume of air going anywhere valuable to us. When we slow it down and there's less strokes, if you will, there's less of that that's not making it down, and more air is getting down into our lungs. And when that air is holding into the lungs for longer, we're actually exchanging more of it, and more of our oxygen is going to get released to our body when our CO2 levels come up a little bit, which is what happens when we change biochemistry. That gets a little deep and complicated, but that's basically what's happening when we're trying to do this lighter, slower, deeper concept. So what we want to do is start this one in the lying position that we did on day one to learn how to breathe diaphragmatically. You can get your hands onto your ribs so you can feel for that 360-degree expansion. And I want you to lay there trying to follow the cadence of a 4-second inhale through your nose and a 6-second exhale through your nose. So that's going to be the slower concept. Getting down in here is going to be that deeper concept. And lighter concept, what I want you to imagine is that the little hairs in your nose, you're breathing so light that instead of on the exhale, they're coming out, and on the inhale, they're coming sucked back in. Think that there's so gentle of a little airflow there that they're not really moving or flapping in the wind, so to speak. Or that if you put your finger here just above your nose, that you would barely be able to um, feel the air exchange and the air moving onto your finger as you exhale. So slowing and making that breath that much more gentle than what it normally is. Think if you go for a run and you finish up that run, how you're very like almost panting and it's very fast and like heavy. We want to go light, 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 so it's less and less perceivable, and people are starting to wonder, like, are they even breathing? That's what we mean in the sense of lighter, slower. Obviously, you're using that 4-6 cadence, and deeper, getting into our lower abdomen, diaphragm, rib area versus up in our chest. So that's the goal today, is to start flying with that 4 inhale, 6 exhale, just trying to lighten up the breath. And what you'll notice when you do this is that you get just a little desire to take a breath. And that's exactly where we want it to be. This is one of those things that you're going to have to play around with a little bit of, like, we want that to tip the scale just a little bit towards, like, I kind of want to take a breath a little bit sooner than what I'm going to, but not to the point of, like, I have serious air hunger. I need to take a gasping breath and open my mouth. Play with just that fine line of, like, I feel that little bit of air hunger there, and that will help improve your breathing mechanics over time. If, however, while you're practicing this, you feel that you've taken it too far, just take 20, 30 seconds, reset, take a couple breaths, reset your breath, and then go back into the exercise. But we want to be challenging that feeling just a little bit, that light air hunger, as we're doing the light, slow, and deep breathing. Start lying. The progression of this is obviously going to get to a seated position where you can still control being down in your diaphragm here in the lower portion of our ribs and our abdomen versus up in our chest. And then eventually we can translate this over to going for, like, a little light walk or standing, and continuing to be a little lighter, slower, and deeper. And eventually we want to carry that through every day, all day, so that we can just, like, breathe a little bit less, breathe a little bit more efficient, sorry, effectively, and that will translate to much better breathing mechanics for us.